Christmas 2017 was meant to be the beginning of a fresh chapter in our lives. My husband and I recently settled into a peaceful suburban area. The home may not have been flawless, but it belonged to us. The cozy porch, roomy spaces, and the charming sound of creaky wooden floors made it feel like a fresh start, a place where we could create our dreams. After spending a long time unpacking and setting up my furniture, I finally treated myself to a warm cup of tea to help relax my tired muscles. The outside air had turned quite cold, and the warmth of the tea felt like a little treat. Holding my mug, I made the choice to check out the balcony above. When I walked out onto the balcony, the sight was stunning. The snow covered the rooftops, resembling frosting on a gingerbread house. Christmas lights twinkled brightly, their reflections shimmering in the icy spots on the ground beneath. A soft melody of carols floated gently in the air, far away yet soothing. After many weeks, I finally experienced a sense of calm. However, I found my focus drawn to the neighboring house. A man and a woman were standing on their balcony, their voices lifting above the stillness around them. The man waved his arms around, his face flushed with rage, while the woman yelled in response, her hands tightly balled into fists. Even though the words disappeared into the breeze, their intensity was clear. I paused, feeling uncertain about my next steps. I kept reminding myself that it wasn't my concern. The image of their anger stayed with me as I returned indoors. The following morning, the home felt cozy and welcoming, with the aroma of cinnamon candles wafting through the air. I wanted to create a warm and inviting atmosphere in the neighborhood, so I chose to host a Christmas Eve dinner. It appeared to be a nice opportunity to connect with the neighbors and kick off the holiday season in a joyful way. I created a list in my mind of things to do, like cooking, decorating, and naturally searching for a Christmas tree. Our living room seemed empty without one, and I just couldn't picture celebrating without its sparkling lights. Later that day, I set out to discover the ideal tree. The snow made a satisfying crunch beneath my feet as I strolled through the neighborhood. Taking in the beautiful decorations of wreaths and lights as I walked by the neighbor's house, I heard it once more, the loud shouting. This time the sounds were soft and unclear, coming from within. The woman's voice was quick and piercing, slicing through the air like pieces of glass. The man's voice came after, sounding more intense and filled with anger. I took my time walking, finding it hard to stop myself from listening in, even though I couldn't understand the words at all. A chill went down my spine and I hurried my steps at home again. The tree stood tall in the corner, its decorations sparkling in the gentle light of the string lights. The home really seemed joyful, as if the spirit of Christmas had genuinely come. With a strong desire to invite the couple living next door, I wrapped myself warmly and headed over to their home. The doorbell was out of order, so I gave it a knock instead. After quite some time, the man finally opened the door. His look surprised me. His hair was messy and there were dark circles under his eyes. There was something off about the way he stood, almost like he was preparing for a confrontation. "I'm having a Christmas Eve dinner," I said, making an effort to sound happy. "You and your wife are absolutely invited to come along with us." "My wife is not here," he said straightforwardly. "I will go by myself." There was something in the way he spoke that caused a knot to form in my stomach. As he moved a bit, I noticed the floor behind him. A deep, shiny liquid, rich and smooth, flowed over the wooden floor. My breath was taken away. The man looked into my eyes and his expression became serious. He didn't say anything else. He just closed the door with a bang and secured it with a lock. Christmas Eve came with a burst of excitement and hustle. The table was beautifully arranged, the candles were glowing softly, and the delightful aroma of roasted turkey wafted through the home. A lot of the neighbors showed up, sharing friendly smiles and tales about their experiences. However, the neighbor from next door didn't come by at all. I made an effort to set aside the discomfort that was sneaking into my mind, reminding myself that not everyone is outgoing. The sight of that dark liquid on his floor continued to linger in my mind. As the night came to a close and the visitors departed, I thought it would be good to see how he was doing one last time. The house next door was shrouded in darkness, its windows appearing empty and devoid of life. I tapped gently at first, then a bit more firmly, but there was no response. I shouted, my voice bouncing off the quiet, but the hush was overwhelming. The following morning I got up early, feeling the chilly air biting at my skin. I snuggled into a cozy blanket, brewed some tea and headed up to the balcony. This place had turned into my beloved spot, a peaceful haven where I could see the world come to life. While I looked at the neighbor's house, I noticed something interesting. The lower level was dim, just like it had been the previous night, but one room above shimmered softly. The light was soft, flickering as if the bulb might soon go out. And then I noticed it, a shadow shifting behind the curtains. A figure was visible, standing perfectly still for a brief moment before retreating into the shadows. My heart pounded heavily in my chest. Could it have been the man? Was his spouse back? I quickly made my way back inside, securing the door after me. That evening, I attempted to keep my mind occupied with a book beside the warm fireplace. The cozy glow of the fire barely eased my anxious feelings, and the quietness of the home seemed heavy and stifling. At 1:13 a.m., a sudden loud noise broke the quietness. I stood still, the book falling from my grasp. The loud noise happened once more, and it felt more pressing this time. My legs felt heavy as I slowly made my way to the door, glancing through the peephole. Was that person? The neighbor stood on my porch, his breath creating little clouds in the chilly air. He held a gun in his hand, the barrel shining softly in the light from the porch. I took a step back, my hands trembling as I reached for my phone. As I dialed 911, I quietly shared my situation with the operator, each word feeling like a challenge. The man remained still. He simply remained in place. Gazing at the door, as soon as the police got there, they quickly formed a circle around him. He went along quietly as they took the gun from his hands and put handcuffs on him. While they took him to the car, he shouted, "You killed my wife and I will kill you next." The police arrested me as well, questioning me for hours about his accusations. Eventually, after the investigation, I was cleared and allowed to return home. The police walked into the house next door, their flashlights shining brightly in the dark. A little while later, one of them came out looking very pale. They informed me later that her body was upstairs. She was suspended from the ceiling, her head oozing blood from where she had been hit. The pool of blood on the floor looked just like what I had seen a few days earlier. The man did not return. The police didn't share a lot of details about the investigation, and I felt hesitant to inquire further. I kept imagining her still body swaying softly from the ceiling in that softly lit space. For many weeks, the house next door stayed quiet and without light. Yet there were moments deep in the stillness of night when I believed I could hear soft shouts drifting through the air. Sometimes, when I looked at their upstairs window, I thought I could see a faint shape of someone looking at me. Before we get into the next story, if you come for the first time, please make sure to subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon for upcoming scary stories. We need your support. Please share these stories with your friends and family. Thanks. I was 12 years old when it took place, and even though many years have gone by, I can still recall every detail as if it happened just yesterday. It was December, only a couple of weeks before Christmas. The air felt chilly and snow blanketed the ground, softening noises and making everything appear still and strange. I was walking home from school, making little puffs of snow fly up with my boots. It was the best part of my day, that moment when I could roam around and think about anything I liked. That day, however, something seemed unusual. When I got to my street, I saw a man standing at the corner. He was not moving at all, just standing there and looking at me. His coat was long and dark, and he wore a hat pulled down low over his face. I took my time walking, not knowing what to do next. He didn't wave or smile, he just looked. I rushed the rest of the way home, feeling like his eyes were on me, which made the hairs on my neck stand up. I kept him a secret from everyone. Perhaps it was just something small, I wondered. It seems like adults are always standing around, right? The following day, while I was walking home once more, he was there. This time he was moving around. He began to walk behind me, staying close enough that I could feel his presence, but not so close that it felt uncomfortable. "Hey there, kid," he shouted. His voice was low and scratchy. I moved my head a little but kept walking. "Are you looking forward to Christmas?" he asked. "I'm sure," I said quietly, walking fast. "Do you know where to find the best Christmas tree?" he asked, sounding quite happy. I moved my head from side to side and didn't say anything. I didn't like how he said it, as if he knew something I didn't know. "In the forest beyond the old path," he went on. "That's where the really good ones are. You really ought to check it out yourself." When I got to my house, my heart was beating fast. I couldn't figure out why he was saying this to me. Felt odd, like a hidden thing. I wasn't meant to find out. Some days went by and I attempted to forget about the man, but each time I walked home, I had the feeling that someone was looking at me. I never saw him again, but the feeling remained. One afternoon I was relaxing in the living room, enjoying some TV time. The light from the screen brightened the dark room while I rested. On the couch, the phone rang and I was startled a bit before picking it up. It was my buddy Mike. "Hey," he said, sounding excited. "Let's go look for a Christmas tree. The nice ones are up in the forest, you know?" His words struck me hard. How did he find out about the woods? I didn't mention the man to him. I'm not sure. I began to speak, but he interrupted me. "Let's go. It will be enjoyable." I talked to my mom, but she said no. "Your dad is going to bring home a tree." she said with certainty. You're simply a child. You don't have to search for one. I sat by the window looking at the snow coming down, waiting for her to go out. She finally said she had to go get my little sister from school and asked me to stay inside. I had a blend of feeling bad and feeling excited. Right after she left, I put on my coat and called Mike. Mike and I hurried out into the snow, giggling and gliding on smooth spots of ice. I shared with him the story of the man who had been keeping an eye on me and what he mentioned about the trees in the forest. Mike lifted his shoulders slightly. We'll just take a look around, he said. Then he said I have to go to my friend's house first. His friend's house was at the edge of the woods, an old squeaky place that seemed like it hadn't been tidied up in a long time. Mike's friend was 18 and appeared a bit tough. He had messy hair and a constant frown on his face. The two of them began chatting quietly. At first I didn't really notice, but then I heard words like kidnapping and quick cash. My stomach felt all twisty. Were they just kidding around? Or even worse, were they being serious? I told Mike that it was getting late and that my mom would be back home soon. I have to leave, I said, trying to sound relaxed. Mike chuckled and waved goodbye as I walked away. There was a quick path through the trees that would take me home more quickly. The way was slim and filled with big trees all around. The snow covered everything, making it quiet except for the sound of my boots crunching. I was in the middle of the forest when my shoe got loose. I got down on my knees to fix it, struggling with the damp shoelaces. That's when I heard it, a gentle crunching sound behind me. I stopped moving, my fingers resting on the shoelaces. Gently, I moved my head around. He was present. The guy from the corner was now dressed in dark clothes and his face was hidden by a mask. My chest felt tight when he moved closer to me. I didn't think about it. I just went for a run. My boots slid on the snow, but I kept going. I could hear his steps coming up behind me, quicker and louder than my own. The trees became a fuzzy sight as I moved ahead, my breath coming out in quick, chilly puffs. Stop, he yelled, his voice bouncing around the trees. Please come back or something really bad will happen to you and your family. My eyes filled with tears, but I kept on running. The woods were becoming more shadowy and I was unsure of my location. Now my legs hurt and my chest felt tight, but I just couldn't give up. I saw a big tree that had fallen and its huge trunk was all covered in snow. I jumped behind it, pushing myself against the chilly tree trunk. My heart was beating hard and I thought he could hear it. I paused and held my breath as I noticed his footsteps getting slower. He was near, very near. Come out, he said, his voice loud and upset. I'm serious. I tightly closed my eyes, hoping to disappear. After what seemed like a long time, the sound of his footsteps disappeared. I stayed quiet, counting to 100 before I felt brave enough to move. I walked carefully through the trees looking for my way back. Every shadow seemed to like him and every noise startled me. The snow was coming down more and more and it was becoming tougher to see. Then I noticed a person in front of me, a shadowy shape. I felt a wave of fear wash over me. Was it him once more? I started to run, but the person shouted my name. Hold on, it's me. It was my neighbor, Mr. Harris. He had a job as a security guard and frequently walked around the area to keep it safe. I felt a huge sense of relief and I hurried to him, tears flowing down my cheeks. He paid attention while I shared everything and his expression became more serious. Let's go, he said. Let's take you back home. When I arrived home, my mom was there, upset and mad. But when she looked at my face, her anger changed to concern. I shared all the details with her and she contacted the police. They looked through the woods but didn't find anything. The man had left and all that was left were his footprints in the snow. Christmas Eve had always been a big deal in our family. Every year we hosted a dinner at my grandparents' house in San Diego. It wasn't a fancy place, but there was something about its worn-out carpet and the way the living room smelled like cinnamon that felt like home. That year, the house was lit up with colorful Christmas lights, the tree was piled high with presents, and the air was thick with the smell of roasted turkey and baked ham. The night started like any other Christmas Eve. Relatives trickled in slowly, some carrying dishes, others just bringing themselves and their stories. Uncle Rick came with his famous green bean casserole, and Aunt Susan brought a pie that looked suspiciously store-bought. My cousin Jenna kept snapping pictures of everything and everyone, making sure to capture the perfect Instagram moment. The kids ran around the house, their laughter mixing with the faint hum of Christmas songs playing in the background. The dinner table was a sight to behold. Plates piled high with food, glasses filled with wine and soda, and candles flickering in the center. It was warm, loud, and full of life. Everyone was talking over each other, sharing jokes and reminiscing about past Christmases. It felt perfect in its messy, chaotic way. Then there was him. I didn't catch his name when he arrived, and honestly, I wasn't even sure who had invited him. He looked out of place, sitting quietly at the end of the table. He was tall, with a pale complexion and thinning hair slicked back. His clothes were neat, but oddly dated, like he had stepped out of an old photograph. He didn't eat much, just moved his food around on his plate and occasionally sipped from his glass. No one seemed to mind him, though. If anything, they acted like he had always been part of the family. It wasn't until dessert was being served that things started to feel off. Jenna. Ever. The photographer wanted to take a group picture. She asked everyone to gather in the living room, and we all shuffled over, laughing and teasing each other as we tried to squeeze into the frame. The man hesitated, but followed us after a moment. When the camera's flash went off, he flinched like it had burned him. I remember him standing slightly apart from the group, his expression unreadable. The photo was odd. As Jenna looked at it on her phone, her smile faded. She turned the screen to me, and I immediately saw why. Everyone was there, smiling and happy. But the man looked blurred, almost like he had been moving when the picture was taken. The thing was, he hadn't moved. He had been perfectly still, probably just a glitch, I said, though my voice didn't sound as confident as I wanted it to. We went back to the table for dessert. By now, the kids were winding down, their energy spent, and the adults were settling into a comfortable buzz from the wine. The man stayed quiet, his eyes darting around the room like he was looking for something or someone. I tried not to stare, but something was unsettling about him. His presence felt heavy. It happened just as we were finishing dessert. The man suddenly stood up, his chair screeching against the floor. Everyone turned to look at him. He was shaking, his face pale and glistening with sweat. Then, without a word, he let out a scream, a raw, guttural sound that froze everyone in place. Before anyone could react, he bolted out the front door. For a moment, no one moved. We just sat there, stunned, trying to process what had just happened. Then Uncle Rick stood up, muttering something about going after him. A few others followed, grabbing their coats and flashlights. I stayed behind with the kids, who were now clinging to their parents, wide-eyed and scared. The minutes stretched on. I could hear the muffled sound of voices outside, calling the man's name, though no one seemed to know what it was. After what felt like an eternity, the search party came back empty-handed. They had followed his tracks into the woods behind the house, but they just stopped. No sign of him, no footprints leading away, nothing. We called the police, of course. They came, asked questions and searched the area, but there was no trace of the man. No one could even agree on what he had looked like. Some said he had brown hair, others swore it was black. One of my aunts insisted his eyes had been green, but I remembered them as gray. It was like he had been a different person to everyone who saw him. The rest of the night was tense. No one wanted to leave, but no one wanted to stay either. The laughter and warmth from earlier were gone, replaced by an uneasy silence. When we finally did go home, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching us from the woods. The next morning, Christmas Day, felt hollow. We opened presents and tried to act like everything was normal, but it wasn't. The man's absence hung over us like a shadow. The police called to say they had found no leads and the case was closed. Just another missing person in a world full of them. Weeks passed and life went on, but I couldn't stop thinking about that night. I started avoiding family gatherings, unable to face the questions and the unease. I even stopped going to my grandparents' house. It didn't feel like home anymore. A few months later, Jenna sent me a message. She had been going through her photos from that night and found something. It was another group picture taken earlier in the evening. In the corner of the frame near the doorway was the man. He wasn't looking at the camera. Instead, his eyes were fixed on me. His face twisted into a smile that sent a cold wave of dread through me. I deleted the message and blocked Jenna's number. I didn't want to know anymore.